Welcome everybody to Somewhere in Vegas here on our new home, Spreaker.com. I'm Mark the Q, I'm your host. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll be talking to actor Marcus Zane. We'll be talking a little bit about his projects, including his recurring role on Riverdale and his huge resume that's coming up. He has a very busy 2020, but first... Right now, my guest has a really great movie out called Angelfish, and it's really, really, really cool. It's set in the Bronx. It's a very unique romantic drama, I should say. We have the director Peter Lee on with us now. How are you doing, Peter?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, just looking from the trailer, I mean, it's just a really. I would say almost a really gritty drama, and it really does impact a lot of different angles, especially considering, everything that goes on between this couple. It's just absolutely amazing. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, let's talk a little bit about filming in the Bronx. I mean, how was it for you to kind of have that as a setting and kind of draw inspiration from the area?
You're 100% right. That's what we did. We tried to draw inspiration as much as we could from the Bronx and from the people in the streets of the Bronx. We shot a lot of the film on the streets, like all of the exteriors are out in the Bronx, shooting on the streets, kind of around the people in the area. And I think that was a great experience, and I think it really enhanced the storytelling and enhanced the film really a lot. And as well as that, I think working in the Bronx and filming in the Bronx, the people were so kind and so amenable to letting us kind of tell this Bronx story in the most authentic way possible. And so, yeah, it was great. They were the people in the area that we were filming and were super nice and super helpful with helping us make this as authentic as possible.
How did you get involved with this project? Was this something that you were looking forward to doing as a feature film?
Yeah, well, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've known that this was going to be my first feature film. I started writing it around 2 years ago, and it took about a year to get moving on it before we could actually film. But for about 3 or 4 years, I've known that it's going to be my first feature. It's actually based on the story of how my parents met in Dublin in the 60s. So it's kind of, when you kind of think about what your first feature is going to be, almost want to make it like a very special kind of personal thing. And there was nothing more personal to me than this kind of story that's very close to my heart. So I knew that I wanted it to be my first film.
I mean, I'd almost say it's almost, we're talking a little bit about a parallel here. I mean, it's you're talking about how your parents had met in the 60s in Ireland, which I don't think a lot of people realize that, there was, a divide between the Catholics and the Protestants out there. And then out here in this story in particular, we talk a lot about the Latino community and the Caucasian community in the Bronx as well, and there's being a little bit of a divide there. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, the inspiration you said is the fact that there is kind of a divide between these two, and they have to kind of overcome it.
Yeah, I think the big thing from my perspective was always about the big kind of heart of the true story is that these two people are from two completely different worlds. They're from two completely kind of different parts of the city. Brendan in the movie lives in Kingsbridge, and Ava lives in Marble Hill, which are close together, but have at that time in the 90s had kind of primarily different communities. And so yeah, it's about it's really about how these two people are from two different worlds. It's very much an opposites attract kind of thing, and it's about how when these two people meet and fall in love, their entire worldview and their perceptions of themselves and their perceptions of the possibilities in their life, how that kind of opens up to them in their mind. Because obviously it's a very young love story, and that was one of the big things that I wanted to capture as the truth from the story from Dublin in the 60s to the Bronx in the 90s.
Yeah, like you said, it's very interesting to see that, to kind of divide that there, and the obstacles that they have had to incur, and a lot of it deals with family as well. One is going into college, the other one is a high school dropout. Again, kind of a different world, and there are different parts of their lives as well, and tell me a little bit about the working with the actors, especially with the characters that you've written about, and you obviously drew inspiration from as well, and kind of working with the actors in terms of these characters, and also talk a little bit about the family bonds. I mean, obviously that there is in terms of the film where each are trying to get away for a little bit from their families and try to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as with a lot, like almost all the aspects of the film, what I was trying to do was keep the essence of the true story and then build around it a new kind of world, because we knew, like, we're transposing Dublin to the 60s, and the Bronx in the 90s was never going to be, it's like, we can't exactly make the story the exact same, but what we wanted to do was keep the essence and then be able to build a new world and build these new characters with similar but different struggles and their own unique worlds. And the key way we did that was collaboration the entire way through. That's one of the things that I'm kind of most proud of and happy about in the film, is the way in which we were able to allow kind of improvisation on the set and allow these actors, and primarily Princess Nokia and Jimmy Stanton, how we're able to let them kind of develop their characters and really mold them based on who they felt they were and what they felt they might want to do, rather than basically saying, stay there and stand the lines, stay there and say the lines written on the script. We were able to kind of really improvise and allow them to explore ways in which they thought that they could bring unique aspects to the character from their experience and their understanding. The key critical thing for all of this was collaboration being the best way to bring that realness that we were looking for. And in terms of family, I mean, yeah, it's a critical thing. It's like the closest thing that we have in our life, and when you open your heart up to a new person, there's always going to be struggle between the new person you bring in and the family, and how the two things kind of meld and meet. And it's like it's a story almost as old as time, in terms of, you think of like Romeo and Juliet and all those kinds of stories, and that was intentional. We wanted to resonate as much as we could with the classic archetype of the love story, because the key thing for us with this was that this isn't like Romeo and Juliet, and it's not, because it's based on a true story. It's not like you see the classic play or you see West Side Story, you see these big romantic movies with these dramatic plots, and you go, well, that kind of love that big could never happen for me. The idea with this film is that we were to tell this classic love story but make it as real as possible. What we'd be able to do is show the audience that something like this is possible. Something like this is possible for them. So yeah.
This is your first feature film, and that's a huge thing. You kind of go into it, thinking this big huge project, and I guess you could say it gets easier over time. But tell me a little bit about kind of the preps and the learning experiences that you had in terms of doing your first feature film, and how you kind of grown through the process.
Oh wow! In terms of, I feel like a whole new person based on the education and the learning that I've got from this first feature. It was I think there's no director that goes into their first feature film with all of the resources that they could ever want. And so what that does, especially when you're in an independent setting, what that does is it makes you think as creatively as possible, or to work the best with and keep the story focused. So one of the things, I just, the long form nature of the feature kind of form really growing in understanding and how one keeps the audience's attention and one grows a narrative over a long period of time. That was also a real kind of a real interesting experience. It's actually something that I've realized that's where my heart is, and that's where my storytelling, my feeling for storytelling is, and being able to develop these characters, because I really do like making movies that are that really consider, I suppose, what they're talking about, and really go into things in depth and develop. And that's kind of where I think that's why I think the long format is really my kind of my sweet spot as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, so that was a great learning experience. But yeah, huge growth across the spectrum, working with bigger crews, working with bigger budget, being able to develop a character develop characters with actors where you have more time and you've got more ability to look at it from a macro scale versus, say, working with a short where you have limited time and limited budget and even limited screen time to execute that.
Well, speaking of crew, I mean, that's very important, and I think sometimes that gets kind of get pushed to the wayside, as it were, for a lot of people. I mean, they see the actors on screen, but they don't realize how important that crew is, especially your director of cinematography. I mean, how was it for you to kind of get your crew together as well, and I mean, not just your photography, but your editors as well, and kind of work with them and try to get the right look for the film? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, we from the very beginning, I met with two of our producers, Robin Rose Singer and Rabia Sultana, and they because I'm obviously only in the city for 3 years, but they've been working here for years and years longer than that, and so they've kind of really got their roots deep in the New York indie film industry. So they were instrumental in being able to pull together this incredibly talented crew. And the other thing that we were looking for across the board is making sure that we had just a range of talent all across the board. And so we got incredibly lucky with the crew we were working with. I don't for a moment underestimate how the film would not be nearly as wonderful as it is, and I wouldn't be as proud of it as I am without the incredible work of the crew. The very first thing, like almost the very first lesson that I ever had in film school was film is about collaboration. It is no single person can make a film, and so you have to make sure to bring on board the best people you can possibly find, and I think that we did that, and we're super proud of it.
Yeah, final question. It's great to be able to, like I said, to be able to see the reaction of the audience and to see how they enjoy the film. What was it like for you to be able to show it in front of an audience the very first time? And how's the feedback that you've been getting in terms of the film?
Oh my God, it's like that's maybe one of the most wonderful things about this whole process, because you make the film and you spend it was 2 years of solid work before the audience got to see it, and now that they're seeing it, the thing that I'm loving is that those key things. I mean, I've mentioned about keeping that essence of the story and maintaining the love story and the authenticity and the realness, I suppose, of the story at all times. And the wonderful thing is that the audience that we kind of made this for, they're actually seeing it and they're appreciating it, and they're basically picking up what we're putting down. You know what I mean? They're appreciating the things that we maintained were the most important things for us in the movie, and that is so heartening. And I'm seeing it being able to hear people both take similar thoughts from the film and similar ideas as to their interpretation of it, but also then have their own different interpretations is also amazing. It's what you make art for. It's what you make movies for. It's what I got into making movies for, was to connect with people and with audiences, and the fact that that's happening now and happening on such a large scale is just a dream come true.
I want to mention that you guys can check out Angelfish right now on video on demand and iTunes right now. It's also playing in several select theaters. You guys can go to angelfishmovie.com to be able to see where you could watch the movie as well. And anything else coming up for you?